everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy 5 podcast brought to you by Sideline Sports. I'm your host, JT. Week 2 was a crazy one in the NFL. There were several fourth quarter comebacks, including one to my Cleveland Browns. They always find ways to disappoint. They blew a 13-point lead with under 2 minutes left, so that was a pretty brutal beat. But other than that, my weekend was pretty awesome. We went, me and a few friends from PA went home to Ohio to see a Kid Cudi festival. So that was a great time. We went to a casino as well in downtown Cleveland. All of us made out positive, besides one guy. Shout out Jack P. And lastly, my sister got me a microphone. Hopefully, we're going to have little improvements like that every week here at the Fantasy 5. So huge shout out to Laura. Hopefully, the sound sounds a little bit better this week. But yeah, with that said, let's hop right into it. We're going to go over 5 teams with the injury bug. Last week, I did 5 individual players, but I've already seen some injuries stack up for some teams, so we're going to go ahead and hit those. First up, we've got the 49ers. We all saw Trey Lance is out indefinitely with that brutal ankle injury, so as a result, pretty much the whole scope of that offense is going to be shifted with Jimmy G under center. George Kittle's also questionable after missing a second game in a row last week, but Kyle Shanahan said that he's close to playing, so keep an eye on him as well. Lastly, rookie running back Tyrion Davis-Price also went down with a high ankle sprain, so he's going to be out for a few games, similar to Elijah Mitchell. That's going to leave their backfield completely depleted. They have Jeff Wilson, who's already a backup, and rookie running back in Jordan Mason, who hasn't had any touches yet. So definitely stay away from a lot of the weapons on the 49ers for the next couple weeks, I'd say. Next up, we've got the Bucs. Julio Jones and Chris Godwin are questionable going into week 3. Godwin is not looking too good. He has 0 points on fantasy projections, so he's probably going to be listed as doubtful in a day or two. Julio Jones has a little bit more upside. There's a little bit more of a likeliness that he's going to play. In addition to that, not an injury per se, but Mike Evans' suspension was also upheld earlier this week, so he's not going to be suiting up. And to pile on, their 3 best receivers who are available left are also dealing with injuries, although they're all likely to play. Russell Gage with a hamstring, Scotty Miller with a calf injury, and Rashad Perriman with a knee injury. Next up, we've got the Cowboys. We all know about Dak's thumb injury, and Michael Gallup could potentially play this weekend against the Giants. That remains to be seen. However, last week, Dalton Schultz went down, and he's doubtful according to his fantasy projections, also at 0. So lastly, we've got the Buffalo Bills. Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox have been limited in their practice time this week, along with several of their defensive players. So primarily in the pass defense. This is likely going to test their running game, namely James Cook, who's the rookie running back. His first touch in week 1 was a fumble, so that was pretty brutal. So he has the chance this week to assert himself into the Bills' play calling schemes moving forward. So with that said, let's go ahead and move right into waiver wire pickups. First up, we've got Tua Tagovailoa. Can't skip out on him. It may have been a fluke. It may have been the best game he's going to have all season, but with 6 touchdowns, and over 450 yards, you can't not play him this week, I got to say. When you have Waddle and Tyreek out there to spread the field, Tua is going to undoubtedly have weeks like this here and there. It could be a good stash option for you. He could add some value as the weeks progress, or he could be a solid play in a favorable matchup, especially if you're in a good 2-quarterback league. Although he is playing the Bills this week, so that may not be your best play. But as I just said, they're missing a lot of their pass defense. So maybe Tua can take advantage. Next up, Garrett Wilson with the New York Jets. He had an incredible week. 8 receptions on 14 targets. Incredible to see 14 targets for a rookie wide receiver. He had a lot of firsts. He had his first touchdown. Granted, he got 2 of them. He had his first 100-yard game. And as sickening as it was to see against the Browns, it was his first NFL win. So he had clean routes and he's fast as lightning. I'm excited to see how he'll develop throughout the season as well. Next up, I just mentioned him, Russell Gage with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had 7 catches on 8 targets. Good percentage of completion. But it's not so much the stats that put him here. It's the injury trouble of Godwin and Julio Jones, the Mike Evans suspension, all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely going to be their wide receiver 1 going into this week, if he's able to recover from that hamstring injury in time. Next up, Gerald Everett. Love him. He's a tight end option. Don't have any running backs this week. There really weren't anybody that stuck out that isn't already a solid running back that you that you already know about or is already picked up in your league. There's a fast engine. How about that? As I was saying, Gerald Everett, 6 catches on 10 targets, 71 yards. He solidified himself as a valuable part of that offense. If you guys watched Thursday Night Football last week with the Chargers and the Chiefs, they were feeding him. Justin Herbert was feeding him in one drive specifically. It ended tragically when he missed that one targeted ball right on the end zone. That was a pick six. It seemed like he was absolutely gassed, and they just didn't have time to sub him out. So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Keenan Allen going forward and play Gerald Everett accordingly, depending on how he's going to be in. Next up, or is that everybody? No. I've got one more. Jakobi Meyers from the New England Patriots. He had 7 catches off a nice 13 targets last week. Baker's dozen. Him and Nelson Aguilar present solid matchups against a poor Ravens secondary. They also have some injuries with Marcus Peters and who's their other guy, Marlon Humphrey out. So that's going to make Jakobi Meyers a good streaming pickup just for this week. Next up, we've got rookie rankings. Couple changes from several changes from last week. Couple guys went down, couple guys rose up. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with the number 5 guy, Treylon Burks. He had another good game. He was ranked a little higher than this last week, but he did drop down to the number 5 spot. Just nothing really that really drew my attention, but he did have a solid game, so he's going to stay on this top 5. Next up, Drake London. He finally had his breakout game. He fell very flat week 1, so he didn't even touch the list, but he definitely earned himself. I think he had 2 touchdowns last week, so that's going to earn himself a spot on that as well. Dameon Pierce, interesting. He still hasn't gotten a touchdown, but you saw his production increase. I think he went from 11 attempts in week 1 to 15 in week 2. Added about 30 yards on the ground more than he had the previous week. So I just love to see that improvement. I'm not going to take him off my ranking list until he really does slide in the performance like that, get overshadowed by Rex Burkhead, something like that. So yeah, he's still my guy, Dameon Pierce. Next up, Jahan Dotson with the Washington Commanders. He was on the list last week as well. I think he was my number 1 guy. He dropped down to number 2. I think everybody probably is gonna, or as soon as they say it, you're gonna say, "Oh, that's who number 1 is." But Jahan Dotson played a good game. There was just a total breakout receiver in Garrett Wilson with the New York Jets. Another 2 touchdown game that he had. Like I said, 8 receptions, 14 targets. If somebody's getting that kind of target share, 14 targets with the Jets, granted he's a rookie, like that just takes it to a whole new level. He's going to be a big part of that offense for years to come. So if he's still available in your league, he was the first guy scooped up for my leagues last week. Definitely pick him up if you have a chance to. Last but not least, as I said a little earlier, we've got the bet slip. I'm going to be talking about 5 bets I have going into the Monday night or Thursday night football game with the Browns and Steelers. First up, pretty simple. I've got the over. I think there's going to be some scoring in this game. A few defensive, injuries going on with the Browns. And Minkah Fitzpatrick can't, intercept every ball. We do have a couple guys, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who are going to be able to spread the ball, or spread the field rather. Next up, we've got the first half stats. I didn't want to put a full bet into the universe with just saying the Browns are going to win the game. So I've got the first bet stat here, -2.5. I like the points a little bit better as well. That's at -122. Next up, Nick Chubb over 1.5 receptions. It's +140, so I had to take it. I think it's 2 plays. He's got to get 2 receptions. I don't think that's going to be that hard to overcome. Hopefully he'll be able to do that. Next up, Najee Harris over 16.5 receiving yards. He can do that in 1 play. The Browns, as tough as it is to say, they give up explosive plays like that, especially with screens and things like that. So they're gonna probably want to look to him for some receiving yards on that end. And lastly, we've got the longest touchdown. I think it's going to be over 36.5 yards. Rather, that's what it's set at, and I do believe it's going to go over. That's -117. Somebody's going to make a mistake. It's the Steelers and the Browns. That's all I have to say on that matter. And with that, we're going to wrap up the Fantasy 5 podcast. We started about the Browns. We're ending on the Browns. So now it's time to go watch the Browns. Please feel free to share this, like and retweet. You can find me on Twitter at JakeTaylor123. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.